Hello and welcome to Host a Toaster, Frankston Toastmasters official podcast. My name is Tom Moore, and in this episode I'll be having a chat with David Hughes, who is our longest serving member currently at the club. We will be talking about the club's history as well as his thoughts on leadership, public speaking, and what he has seen Toastmasters do for him and others throughout the years. Good afternoon, evening, morning. It could be any time of the day wherever you are listening to this, because you have tuned into the Frankston Toastmasters podcast. Now, my name is Tom Moore and I'm the Vice President of Public Relations, and here joining me today we have the marvellous David Hughes. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Tom. Lovely to be here.
Excellent, and thank you for taking the opportunity to have a chat with us as well, because we're looking at the history of Frankston Toastmasters tonight. And from what I know, I've only joined the club recently, but you've been around Frankston Toastmasters for quite a while, is that correct?
I've been around a long time, too long at times, but I joined originally in 1986 at the behest of my manager in Telecom. He said, go to Toastmasters, learn to speak a bit slower. I said, okay, I did. So I went there, and I was there for 6 years, from 1986 to 1992. And the year before, we'd adopted our son from Central America, Oscar, and I decided it was time to leave Toastmasters and look after him more. So I had a short break, 16 years, and then I came back on the first day of the Olympics in 2008, the 8th of the 8th in 2008. I retired from work, and paid work, and then I went back to Frankston Toastmasters Club, and I've been there ever since.
So what sparked that? What made you want to come back to Frankston Toastmasters after such a gap between?
I think that what Frankston Toastmasters gave me was this kind of confidence. It helped me build that. I was growing as a speaker and a leader, and it was a safe place to be and practice that. And I miss some of the people I was in Frankston Toastmasters Club with, but the night I went back, oddly enough, there was only one person there on the night that it was there in the old days, and he'd been my mentor, Bill Williams, and he was there that night, and he welcomed me with open arms, so I stayed.
There you go. It's amazing, isn't it, just how much a small community can really come together, and especially to recognise you from all that time. Had you kept in touch with him between?
A couple of times, but Bill had been the longest serving member in the club. He'd also been the fourth longest serving member in our district. He'd been a member of Frankston for 31 years. And he only left because of ill health, but I did keep in touch with him now and again. An interesting character. He's 86 now. He's
86 now. So will he be likely to come to the 45th anniversary that we've got coming up, do you think?
Hopefully he'll be there. He was at our 1000th meeting, which was held in October last year. And he's more than willing to come if he's fit enough. I'll go and pick him up. He'll come.
Excellent. Well, there we go. We've just heard it from David himself. Bill, I look forward to meeting you. Now, David, could you please just tell us a little bit about what your role is in the Toastmasters at the moment and sort of your journey to get there?
Sure. I'm at Frankston Toastmasters Club. I'm the Vice President Membership. So my role really is to convert visitors to members. I'm also a member in Cranbourne Toastmasters Club, and I went there basically because it's a struggling club just to help them out. I'm also the Division Director for Bass Division Director in District 73. And my role there is to support, encourage, instill confidence into the area directors and the members in 20 clubs.
Wow, so since joining 10 years ago, you've really taken it on and it's become a big part of your life then, hasn't it?
It has, you know. I say to people, I'm in Toastmasters and Toastmasters is in me. In the first 6 years I was there, it was more business-like, and the people in charge or the club officers, they expected you to be there forever before you could ever get a role like that.
So this was back in the 80s?
Back in the 80s. But since I rejoined, I've achieved a lot myself. I've given a lot to Toastmasters. I've been a division governor originally, and now it's called division director, so I've done the role twice. I've been an area director. I've served in every position in the club. I travel a lot. I've spoken around the world, and I'm just imbued with a sense of giving. And my tagline actually is, "We serve ourselves best when we serve others." I believe in that, and if I can help people, I will, and I know they help me.
Okay, so that's why essentially you find yourself doing so much within Toastmasters, is because you like helping out other people, and obviously you learn from that as well.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that's been the case for you the whole way through the journey?
No, but it's grown. I mean, it's like everything that evolves, doesn't it? You know, you how can I say this? People saw me as a kind of cop in Toastmasters. I know the rules, I know the protocols, I know the guidelines, and I religiously follow them. I believe in integrity, and I believe in diligence and all of those sort of things. But I think it's just that I'm eager to learn. I'm not an expert in Toastmasters. People think I am, but I'm not. There's no experts in Toastmasters. I'm just someone who's developed, and I have a good speaking style apparently, and I enjoy it. So it's about, really for me, it really is about, this is the only place in the world that gives you three things that help you grow in life, which are invaluable to me. You get a skill set, you get practice, but the thing that Toastmasters gives you is feedback. Whatever you do in Toastmasters, there are people there listening to give you feedback. That's the important thing. And if you get the feedback, you can use that to grow. I listened to a speaker the other night talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, 5 levels. First of all, we need kind of food, clothing, and other things. Then we need a bit of security. Then we need love and belonging. Then we need something else. And then we get to self-actualization. I'm not there yet, but I'm travelling towards that. Toastmasters has given me something that no other organisation could have given me.
Very nice. Now, in terms of your Toastmasters journey along the lines, and you spoke about some people that you've met in previous years, could you share with me some people that you have come across that have really made an impact with you that you've met through Toastmasters?
Well, I think let's start with Bill Williams. Bill Williams was a dedicated Toastmaster. He was a cop before me in Toastmasters. This guy...
So we're talking like someone blowing the whistle and holding the baton and all of that kind of thing?
Yeah. I remember the day that I asked him, when he was thinking of retiring from Toastmasters, I asked him, did he have a copy of the club constitution? Did he have the banner? Did he have these things?
Did he have to hand in the gun and the badge as well?
Yeah, and I said, can I have them? No, he said. I said, what do you mean no, Bill? He said, they're mine. I said, no, they belong to the club, Bill. Yeah, but I look after them. I said, yeah, I understand that, but I'll look after them. No. And it was like he owned them and he wouldn't let go. And I had to go to his house several times and convince him they'd be in good hands and that I could look after them on his behalf. And that's when he relented. That was one thing he did. And the second thing he did, which was spoken about the other evening, when I got my DTM, which is Distinguished Toastmaster, in 2012, Bill insisted that he present me with the plaque. I'd already arranged to have someone else do that. And it was the division governor, which is like division director, Robin O'Donnell. And I'd asked her to do it. So she was there to give me my plaque. But Bill insisted he give it to me. And I said, no, Bill. Robin's going to do it. She's in this position. No, he said, I mentored you. I, did this with you. And I insist that I do it. So he gave me the plaque. She held on to it. We had a photograph taken. And he's not going to like me for this. But what we did was we photoshopped the photograph. So as Robin O'Donnell's giving me the plaque, he's not in the picture. Yeah, she was happy, I was happy, and he'll be happy when I give him a copy of the original photograph.
Oh, I love that. That is brilliant. So you talk about him being there and him mentoring you and then wanting to be there to hand you that award. Obviously, you've just gone through a similar kind of process with Simon, a member of our club, receiving his DTM. And how did you feel seeing someone who you've been able to mentor get to that level?
Oh, it was awesome, DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster, the highest level you can go in Toastmasters as a speaker, leader, communicator. To see someone achieve that, who've actually put the work in. There's a lot of people in Toastmasters these days who rush to that. I think the record is 1 year. To be a DTM in 1 year means you have to be a club officer the day you join. You then have to do, in those days, a competent communicator manual, 10 speeches, a competent leadership manual. There's several things in that. You've got to do all the advanced speeches. There's many of those. So to get that in 1 year, you would have to be attending Toastmasters probably, I don't know, every day of the week and maybe many hours of the day. I have a friend in Malaysia who's a DTM. 500 speeches in a year. Went to Toastmasters every day. I mean, it's ridiculous. To me, that's ridiculous. Toastmasters is something we do. It's not our lives as such. But Bill was paramount for me because he taught me about Toastmasters. He taught me about Toastmaster guidelines and rules. He taught me the way to do things. And I'll always thank him. I'm always grateful. You know, I have gratitude for Bill. Even though at the end he was getting older, and we all get grumpy when we're older. You ask any member of Frankston Toastmasters Club who's the most grumpy member in the club, and at least half will point to me.
Well, they haven't seen me hungry yet, David, so we'll wait and see. That may change over the years. But I do want to know, you know, you said that you went back in the 80s for 6 years. What drew you to Toastmasters initially? I think you said something along the lines of needing to talk more slowly. Is that correct?
That's right. I worked for Telecom Australia, and I was a manager general services in Telecom in headquarters. I had 137 staff across 5 branches answering to me through supervisors. And my boss, Peter, was a great guy. And we used to get together a lot, especially, you know, at work, but also in the pub on a Friday night. And one night he opened up to me and he said, you know, David, your staff think the world of you. They'll do anything for you. And I admire that. He said, there's one little problem for me. I said, what's that, Pete? He said, he said, and my managers have no idea what you're speaking about, David. You talk too quickly. I suggest you go to Toastmasters. They'll teach you how to pause and slow down. As a manager, he was interesting. As someone who taught me that, I owe him heaps because it was the best thing I ever did. I used to speak at roughly, I suppose, 180 to 300 words per minute. Now I speak at a regular rate, somewhere between 90 and maybe 140 words a minute. And most people will tell you the best thing that Dave Hughes does when he's giving speeches is pausing.
It's interesting that you've been able to get that constructive feedback from your boss all those years ago and then being able to work on it to a point now where we're talking at a lot less of a rate than what you were back then. So what else have you got from Toastmasters over the years?
You know, you meet so many people. The diversity of Toastmasters is marvellous. I mean, I'm lucky, I guess. I have the wherewithal to be able to do what I do and, you know, travel and see people in their own environments in different countries. And I know lots of Toastmasters. And, you know, I've been in Toastmasters a long time. I've seen the good things and the bad things. I've seen great leaders and I've seen lots of great leaders. And all of it, I think, has taught me that we're all different. We all bring something to the game. And it's all valuable. But you just have to sometimes sort it out. What's best for me? What would I do? What would I do? Earlier tonight, you, Tom, and I were looking at a video of Dhananjaya Hettiarachchi. Now, if you look at his World Championship of Public Speaking winning speech, it's awesome. Everyone remembers it. But then when you look at the butterfly speech, which is speaking differently, your dream is not for sale, these sort of things, that's what I'm about. It's about an opportunity presents itself and you seize it. And I take risks. I've taken some terrible risks. But they've all turned out pretty well, especially in Toastmasters. Prior to that, I can't say, but certainly in Toastmasters.
In terms of Toastmasters as well, what I've found is Toastmasters isn't just about speaking. You've talked about leadership and really good leadership, but also listening. And so what would you say in terms of your listening skills over the course of the last few years? How have they come along through being at Toastmasters?
I can tell you, Tom, until I was about 45, I lived for David Hughes. I didn't care much about a lot of things. And I say that, even though I was married at 28, after chasing my wife for 31 days, to just say yes. I'd been engaged 3 times prior to that. I'm not speaking about that because I'm proud of it, because I'm not. I'm ashamed of that. I've got lots of regrets about my early life. But I didn't listen very well. In fact, I won a speech contest one night with that very speech. I wish I'd listened. My dad tried to teach me about my childhood in Wales, how proud he was, and tried to make me proud of that. But I was too busy playing. I didn't listen. My girlfriends used to tell me I was a wastrel, I was reckless, but I didn't listen. My mum told me I'd make nothing of myself because I didn't listen. And then my wife, Nancy, she taught me about that. She used to say to me, David, just stand there and listen. You never listen. So I did this speech about that. I won a contest with it. And at the end of the speech, and I wish I could be like that when I was young. Age is a strange thing. Now that I'm going into my 74th year, I'm thinking I haven't got a lot of time left to tell people these things. But in this speech, I talk about those things. And at the end of it, I look in the air and I say, and this is how I end the speech, Mum, Dad, Nancy, I don't know where you are, but I want you to know one thing about me. I listen now.
And that is absolutely key to any kind of conversation, isn't it? And, you know, I've been reading some books lately in regards to storytelling and all of those kinds of things, and the power talk system as well. And it all comes back to, if you listen first, the rest will come naturally. Whereas if you're thinking constantly about what you're going to say next, it becomes quite difficult. And so, yeah, I think that really is. And for the first thing I heard when I arrived at the Frankston Toastmasters was, if you want to come here to learn how to public speak, that's great, but you'll also learn how to listen, and that's so much more important than any other skill that you'll get from Toastmasters.
It's very true, especially today. In the old days, it was different. Public speaking used to be the number one enemy of most people. Everyone feared it. In fact, Seinfeld said in one of his comedy routines that most people at a funeral would rather be in the casket than give the eulogy because they're afraid of public speaking. But public speaking has many, if you like, levels. To be a public speaker, it's like having a conversation with a friend, except there's more than your friend in the audience. But in order to do it, certainly you've got to be confident, you've got to get rid of your nerves, but it's still a conversation. But to really appreciate public speaking, listening is probably the biggest skill you'll learn in Toastmasters. I think the most valuable role in Toastmasters for me is the timekeeper and the heartmaster. Because the timekeeper can learn the timing of speeches. They can watch how a person operates on the stage, and if they're timing it well, they can learn to do it themselves. But the heartmaster is someone who listens to the whole night and comes up with questions that tests people's listening skills. They're the valuable things. The other things are valuable, but listening is one of the most valuable.
Now, in terms of listening, as we know, you've been around the club for, in total, probably 16 years now. Mm-hmm. What has been some of the best speeches that you've listened to, or is there a speech in particular that's really stood out to you over the years?
I heard a speech one night, and it wasn't from a Toastmaster member. It was from a guy who was suffering from cancer. We didn't know at the time. He came to the club because his daughter wanted to come, or he wanted his daughter to come. She was very nervous. She didn't, speak very well. She wasn't fluent. There was no flow, and she didn't want to be there. She came because he wanted her to be there. But he'd been a member of Rostrum, which is also a speaking organisation, and I think part of it was he wanted to tell his story. And he joined the club, and on the night that he gave his icebreaker speech, it was about his condition, what he was suffering with, and how he wanted a gift to his daughter, that ability. So he brought her there to listen to him. He'd never spoken to her about his condition. And as he spoke, I watched the audience, the members, and I saw tears, and I saw people with their heads down, and they were totally engaged with this guy. And at the time, I wished I could be like that. People had always said to me, David, you're a good speaker, but you're like a statue. No one sees David Hughes. They don't see your vulnerability. They don't see your passion. You could be one of the best, but you've got to show that. That night taught me that. But it wasn't until later I was in Sri Lanka speaking to a world champion of public speaking. And if he listens to this, he'll know who he is. And he said to me, I was a good speaker. The problem was I never showed my vulnerability. I've been in Toastmasters a long time. 2 years ago, I won the district table topics contest. And it wasn't a question that I had to answer, it was a topic. And it was called A Return to Love. And it gave me an opportunity to speak about my own life and losing my wife. And it seemed the apt question at the time. And I felt it. And I said it. I never mentioned her name. I never mentioned we were married for the length of time we were married. But I watched the audience as I was speaking. And I was overcome with kind of feelings and grief. And it was coming to me. And I was almost bursting into tears myself at one stage. And I wanted it all to finish. But having looked at the audience, I could see that finally I'd engaged and touched an audience. And that's what the dream was for me. And I was told later, people understood me. They knew who I was then. They didn't know that before, and that had taken all that time.
Wow, so it sounds like the key to having or doing a good speech really is to speak from the heart and to speak about what you know about. Is that correct in terms of what you're saying?
That's right. A great man once told me, and I've had many teachers along the way. My maths teacher, when I was in secondary school, taught me many tricks with cards and coins, and I use them in these days. In workshops I do. But one of the things that has really taught me something was actually my dad was a very clever man. He taught me many, many things, which I didn't listen to when I was a kid, but I've remembered since. But the biggest lesson I think that someone once taught me is that the longest journey you will ever take is from the head to the heart. And I've learned that now, because I used to be an intellectual speaker. Now I'm a heart speaker. And I can engage audiences now, whereas before they'd listen and they say, oh, technically that was brilliant, but we don't know you. Now I speak about what I'm feeling as much as what I know.
So going from that then, where you were such a technical speaker before, to now someone where you speak from the heart, what advice would you give to someone who is wanting to go from that stage to the other?
I always give young Toastmasters 3 tips when they're preparing to speak. Apart from overcoming the confidence and the nerves, but when they're ready to give a speech, there are 3 things you need to do. Always speak about what you know or from your own experience. Speak with passion. And always package it for the audience. You see, people want to be like you. And audiences wants to listen to a speech that makes you like them. The St Kilda Football Club, they wanted a speaker to go there and speak about power, what it was and what it wasn't. And I spoke to them, and it was like they had cameras and microphones, and I'd never used any of them. I was overall kind of Toastmaster, but I could tell a story. And I like folk tales, and I like, proverbs and metaphors and any things like that. And I spoke to them about the stone cutter. So the stone cutter is happy in life, okay? He's got a family and kids, and they've got enough to eat and stuff like that. But he's chopping these bricks for these builders, and they're building a mansion for the big rich Chinese guy. And he's happy in his life. And then one day he decides he'd just like to see what goes on inside this compound of this big mansion they're building. And he sees a guy lying on this chaise, and it's got silk and sheets, and there's people fanning him, and he's drinking nice glasses of wine, people pouring it for him, and this guy thinks, geez, I wouldn't mind being like that. And he dreams about it, being powerful like this. And as if by magic, his dream comes true one day. And he's lying on a couch with all this stuff. People pouring him wine and fanning him because of the hot sun. And he thinks, this is what power's about. And then he gets uncomfortable because the sun's beating on him. And he has to undo his one button his shirt because the sun's really bad. And he thinks to himself, the sun is more powerful than me because it's making me uncomfortable. I want to be the sun. By magic becomes the sun. sitting up there, he's shining down, making people uncomfortable. And then in the heavens, he's just there, he's thinking, this is what power's about. And then one day, he feels wet. And the rain is raining, and it's blocking him away from the people. And he's feeling uncomfortable, and then he thinks the rain is the most powerful. And then one day, he hears this noise, and it's going, and it's dispersing the rain. And he thinks, geez, and it's blowing people over in the streets, and people having accidents. He thinks, that's real power. It becomes the wind. And so he starts blowing on the earth, and people are being bowled over, trees are uprooted and everything. And he thinks, this is power. And he sees this big rock, and he blows on it. The rock sits there. He blows again, and it sits there. Blows again, and he sits there. And he thinks, Jesus, I think this is power. That's power. I want to be the rock. And he becomes the rock, and he's happy. This is the most powerful thing ever. And one day, he hears a tap. And he starts to feel uncomfortable. And then he starts to break apart. He breaks apart. And he looks down, he sees a shadow. It's a shadow of rock cutter.
So power is just
power is what's in here. It's not how
that is such a great story. It's so true, isn't it?
And I told that to the board of St Kilda Football Club. I was invited back 3 times to speak to them about the same thing. That was a story.
So I'd like to ask a few questions now about the club,
Sure.
if that's all right, because obviously you've seen it over many years and seen where it was back in the 80s and now where it is. So I guess the first question that I'd like to ask is, how have you seen Frankston Toastmasters progress over those years?
Several good things have happened to the club. In the early days, it was a bit like service clubs. It was business. All the guys were dressed in suits. The women were dressed up to the nines. But the authority was there. The club officers had been there for a long time, and they were the experts. They knew what it was all about. And we new people had no chance of being them. And for maybe 3 or 4 years, we went there, we were taught what to do, we had mentors and people telling us, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do the other thing. And it was as if they were telling us what they wanted from us. They never asked us about what we wanted in that sense. One night, a group of us got together outside of the club, young Toastmasters, been there a little while, who felt that we ought to be part of the committee. But when we'd approached it inside the club, they didn't want to know. And I came up with this idea, and I said to Bill Williams at the time, Bill, why don't we have an apprenticeship scheme? So we shadow you. Each, new members can shadow a club officer, and we can learn everything about it for a year. And then when it comes to election time, you can have some of the old committee, some of the new committee. And he said, yeah, what a great idea. So then we met outside separately, these young people, or young new Toastmasters. We weren't that young, but so one night we decided when the election came, we would nominate each other for the positions, because they have to have a split of positions. So we had this election this night, and the old committee thought, well, we're in, and these are going to help us. So when it came to the election, split of positions, I nominated a Canadian guy that was a member, for president. He nominated me for the VPE, and we nominated other people. And the odd thing was, when it came to the vote, we got the positions, and only one of the committee was left from the old school, and that was Bill Williams. And the others left the club after that. They left basically that night. So we had a whole new, younger committee, new members, with Bill as our guide, and it worked really well. People were happy in the club. Whereas in the old days, they felt they were being driven. Now they were helping drive it. So it was really, really good. That was back in the 80s. Well, I came back in 2008, and as I say, Bill Williams was still there. The only guy that I remember still there, and Michael Lilly, who I'd never met, he'd been in the club a long time too. And he was great. But the club is always bigger than the sum of its parts. And I've always believed that everyone's equal in a club. We is far more important than I. And regardless of what you feel you're good at, or you're not good at, you get a chance in Toastmasters to be all things to all people, if that's what you want. If the members are happy, it's a happy club. You know, there's a lot talked about the DCP, the Distinguished Club Programme. There are people who will tell you that those 10 goals are what you aim for in Toastmasters. I differ on that. The DCP to me is a metric that measures how well a club has gone at the end of the year. If you've got a happy club with happy members, the DCP takes care of itself. People are motivated by what they want. And if you can accommodate that in the club, then the club will always be well off.
Very interesting, isn't it, in terms of the leadership side of things, and really, like I said before, and then you've alluded to, is leadership is about building up the people around you and supporting them, being there to help them out.
A leader has 4 functions, really, in my view. A leader can delegate, they can support, they can coach, or they can help members grow. Leadership is not about me. I am a leader, apparently, and I hold the title as a leader. But leadership is about helping people grow. It's never about my own ambition.
So in terms of helping people grow and seeing people grow, where have you seen, you've talked about what Toastmasters has done for you, but what have you seen Toastmasters do for other people that you've come across over the years?
I've met many Toastmasters who have come into the organisation with one idea, and have learned that to get what they want, they have to give people what they want. And I've met some great Toastmasters. People who've been introverts, who haven't had the stage to be any bigger than they themselves believe they can be. And I think good leaders identify people like that. I'll give you a good example. As division governor in 2011-12, you have the usual suspects who are always willing to do things, workshops, training sessions, whatever. And I decided I would like to identify some other Toastmasters who I believe could do it. I visited in that year 68 clubs. There were 18 in my own division, and I went to 50 other clubs, both here and overseas. There was one young guy who was a member of Frankston Toastmasters Club, and he stuttered really badly. And he came to Toastmasters to try and improve on that. And he used some system called the Maguire method, which is a thing to get over stuttering. And I asked him would he like to give a speech, because he gave a speech at a club one night about how stuttering had held him back and how he wanted certain things. And he spoke really fluently and with clarity. And I said, would you like to give a workshop, or would you like to give a speech at the Toastmasters Leadership Institute and Club Officer Training? I'd love to, he said, but David, how am I going to do that? Because you've always got these top people doing that. I said, well, I'm the division governor, so you can do that. And he came, and I can tell you, that young guy spoke. And there were people in the audience crying. They'd never heard such a passionate speech from someone who wanted to be bigger than they were, but had always been stopped doing that because other people wanted to do it. I gave him an opportunity. That's not about me. I identified that he could do that. And I went to other clubs and saw people like that. There was a lady, and she'd been in Toastmasters a long time. No one took a lot of notice of her because she didn't dress like them, she didn't look like them, she didn't talk like them. But she spoke about something I'd done as a contest chair, and she, one night at a meeting, she told people, setting up a contest takes time, it takes a lot of background work, and people didn't appreciate that. And the way she spoke about it, she knew what she was talking about. And I asked her, would she like to talk about that at Club Officer Training? And she said, no one's ever invited me to do that, David. That's all. Here's your opportunity. So that one year, we had people who weren't known by most of the... Because what tends to happen, the people who are well known are the people who would ask first. But these people, you've got to give them an opportunity. they've gone on to be leaders of Toastmasters, but you've got to be able to identify them. So they're the people that impress me. They're the people I admire. They're the people who make it all worthwhile for me.
What incredible stories. I love hearing about, especially these people who have obviously struggled and they've come to Toastmasters to learn these skills, and then to see them grow into something that is so far beyond what they probably would have even imagined in the first place, which is just, it's fantastic to hear that, and it makes me excited to be amongst the community myself. So thank you for sharing that story.
My pleasure.
So I guess I've got another question that I'd like to ask in regards to Frankston Toastmasters.
Sure.
And that is, what do you see the current strengths of the club being?
I think the Frankston Toastmasters Club has always been a fairly strong club. You know, members come, they go. I think the current strength is the same as the strength has always been. There's a core of members who are dedicated, they're committed, they're diligent, and they know what Toastmasters is about, and they can tell you what Toastmasters has done for them. And every club needs that. You need 6 or 7 members who are committed. Mike Rafferty is a famous international director in Toastmasters. When I say famous, he's well known. He says there are 2 types of people join Toastmasters. There are members and there are customers. The members come, they like what they see, and they stay. The customers come, they want what they want, they get it, and they leave. If all members did that, there wouldn't be clubs. So you need this core of members. Frankston's strength is it's got that. Things can be discussed. If there are conflicts, it's healthy conflict, and we can debate it. And that doesn't happen everywhere.
So being a member is really about giving back.
Of course. Of course. I mean, you get a lot from Toastmasters. Consider the value of Toastmasters. We pay, for our club and to TI, I think the fees of Frankston, $140 to join, $90 every 6 months after that. So the first 140 is for 6 months and $90. So the first year you paid $230. You go to 21 meetings to learn about public speaking and leadership. Work that out in maths, that's probably $6 or $7 per night. Where can you get that kind of value anywhere else?
Where would you like to see Frankston Toastmasters in, say, 5 years or 10 years or just down the track?
You know, I have a dream. Martin Luther King said that first. As division director this year, and Frankston Toastmasters Club is my club, and I've been there a long time. It's part of a division. My dream is that every club in Best Division in 2018-19 will achieve all the things it wants to achieve, and at the end of the year will be the jewel in the crown in District 73. To do that, every club needs to have 20 members, including Frankston. Every club has to be led by good club officers, and every club has to be a place where the members feel that they made it so.
Thank you very much for that, David, and thank you very much for meeting up with me today. And I'm sure we'll have many more chats about what Toastmasters has done for the community and for what it's done for you and for myself over the coming years.
I hope so, Tom. It's been wonderful. Thanks
Thank you very much. Cheers.
We'd like to thank you all for listening, and this podcast has been brought to you by Frankston Toastmasters.